Welcome to Top Fact Amazing. Let's be honest, everyone's got something they're self-conscious about when it comes to their bodies. But for some, the methods they choose to fix these insecurities can backfire in ways they never expected. Now, we're not here to judge, but hopefully, we can learn something from their experiences. So, buckle up, rookie. We're diving into everything from massive biceps to exploding butt implants. I'm already feeling winded, and we're just getting started. Ready? Let's see what happens when fake muscles go horribly wrong. Synthol Stallone. When it comes to the ideal male physique, everyone has their own vision. Whether it's Tyler Durden, Arnold Schwarzenegger, or, like this Brazilian guy, your favorite 80s action hero. But let's be real, he's less Rambo and more Rambo no. At first glance, this guy looks pretty average and healthy, but his biceps tell a different story, swollen, inflamed, and clearly infected. We don't have all the details since there isn't much info available about him. But one thing's for sure, he's been using something called Synthol, and a lot of it. Synthol is a nasty mix of oil, painkillers, and alcohol that some bodybuilders inject into their muscles to look extra buff before competitions. But some folks, like our Brazilian friend here, think it's a shortcut to looking ripped without ever hitting the gym. Unsurprisingly, injecting your arms with a slimy cocktail of chemicals is a terrible idea. Not only does it lead to obvious muscle deformities, which, let's face it, aren't exactly the pinnacle of aesthetic beauty, but it also comes with serious risks like nerve damage, infections, and even worse. Yikes! Well, here's hoping his big arms bring him some happiness. At least he's channeled Sylvester Stallone, because with the way things are going, his future might get a little rocky. Can this get any worse? Hold the phone. If Synthol is so dangerous, why bother? People sometimes turn to Synthol because they think it has fewer side effects than anabolic steroids. Steroids are drugs often misused by bodybuilders to boost muscle growth. Unlike Synthol, steroids actually promote real muscle growth, but their side effects can be extreme, something Candace Armstrong from London, UK, knows all too well. Candace struggled with severe body dysmorphia, a mental condition where you obsess over perceived flaws that most people wouldn't even notice. She started working out to improve her self-image, but after 2 years of grueling, 3-hour daily workouts, she still wasn't satisfied. She wanted faster results. A fellow gym goer suggested she try Trenbolone, an anabolic steroid that mimics natural hormones like testosterone and human growth hormone, HGH. Trenbolone increases the amount of protein your body can absorb, leading to rapid muscle growth. And sure enough, the more Candace used, the bigger she got, and the better she felt about herself. Sounds great, right? But her body had a shocking reaction to this hormone surge. Just weeks after starting Trenbolone, Candace began growing facial and body hair, and her voice deepened. That's right, because Trenbolone mimics testosterone, the male sex hormone, it can actually make women more masculine. For Candace, these changes started gradually. But after 2 years of Trenbolone use, she was almost unrecognizable from her former self. She even started wearing men's clothes to avoid the harassment she faced on the streets. That's tough. The last I heard, Candace was seeking professional help to cope with her body image issues. I really hope she's doing better now, she's been through a lot. Kirill me softly. The fitness influencer world has become insanely competitive in recent years, but Russian army veteran Kirill Tereshin has taken some extreme measures to stay in the game. And trust me, you've never seen arms like his. Kirill, also known as the Russian Popeye, started injecting Synthol into his arms at just 20 years old. After 4 years of chasing his version of the perfect male physique, which, apparently, looks like the Discord logo, he ended up needing emergency surgery to remove excess fluid and dead muscle from his triceps. Yikes, I'm feeling queasy just thinking about it. But even after that, Kirill still refused to have a huge lump of petroleum jelly removed from his bicep. Instead, he's taken his body modifications even further. He briefly shifted his focus to his legs, getting silicone implants in his calves, something that's more suited for a school pencil case than a body, if you ask me. But that's not all. As a lifelong fan of extraterrestrials, Kirill's latest goal is to transform himself into one. He's reshaped his jaw, forehead, cheeks, and lips to look as otherworldly as possible. Well, mission accomplished, he definitely looks out of this world. There's got to be a joke here about outer space and outer face, but honestly, I just can't bring myself to make it. One thing that shouldn't be alien to you, though, are those like and subscribe buttons. So go ahead and make first contact with them, unless you're okay with missing out on a constant flow of amazing content, of course. Alright, then. Let's get back to the video. Absolutely awful. Can we all agree that the 2000s were a strange and unsettling time? From beer apps and frosted tips to all those Shrek-themed foods, it was a real mess. But one of the most disturbing aspects was the invasive and bullying paparazzi culture. So when one of its pioneers, Darren Lyons, found himself on the other side of the camera, people didn't hesitate to give him a taste of his own medicine. In 2011, Darren appeared on the British reality TV show Celebrity Big Brother, and one part of his body looked suspiciously more toned than the rest. And he certainly wasn't shy about showing off those sculpted abs. But hey, if I'd dropped nearly $15,000 on them, I'd probably be flaunting them too. You see, Darren wasn't sweating it out with crunches and sit-ups every morning. Instead, he flew to Poland for a muscle sculpting operation that removed most of the fat between the layers of his abdominal muscles. The problem? By focusing solely on his stomach, he ended up with the body of a typical 46-year-old man but the abs of a 23-year-old pro athlete. Now, don't get me wrong, bullying is never okay. But this guy made a fortune by harassing celebrities and selling invasive photos of them. All I'm saying is, karma has a funny way of coming back around, right, Darren? Paul the other one. Unless you've been living under a rock, you've probably heard of YouTuber turned pro boxer Jake Paul. His recent streak of taking on retired MMA fighters, some old enough to be his dad, hasn't been without its fair share of controversies. But there's one photo from his first amateur fight against fellow YouTuber Deji that really caught fans' attention. The self-proclaimed problem child seemed to have a little problem of his own. In the photo, it's hard to tell where his shoulder ends and the backdrop begins. Yep, I'd be pretty upset too if my right trap was fading into the ether. So, what's going on? Has Jake merged with the supernatural? I know shadow boxing is a big part of his training, but I've never seen a right hook thrown from another dimension. In reality, it's just some questionable photo editing. Probably an eager intern on Jake's team trying to bulk him up a bit with Photoshop to make him look more intimidating. But compared to a more recent photo, it seems like they either didn't keep the job or sharpen their editing skills. Love him or hate him, you've got to give Jake credit. After all these years, he's still got that same wild twinkle in his eyes. In fitness and in health, right? You know the saying, couples who train together stay together. Well, that couldn't be truer for George and Susan Koprash. These lovebirds are Canadian bodybuilders who've been competing in the sport for an incredible 30 years. Wow! I hit the gym once and need a week off, and that's just from using the vending machine. But it hasn't always been sunshine and rainbows for this literal power couple. In 2014, they caught a lot of flack online after showing off some pretty questionable silicone implants on stage during a competition. Yikes! George later cleared up the controversy by explaining that they had sought out a professional who claimed to have done implant procedures on hundreds of bodybuilders before. But, unsurprisingly, George also mentioned that both he and his wife were very unhappy with the results. Still, they decided to compete anyway because their daughter was also competing. It was the first time the whole family would be on stage together. But, of course, this is the internet, and people love to zero in on someone's flaws without knowing the full story. Those photos quickly spread across every fitness meme page out there, and these 30-year veterans of the game ended up facing a lot of hate for it. Sheesh. I bet those keyboard warriors wouldn't dare say anything to this bodybuilding family's face. They'd be in for a serious bruising. Get it? 2-day 6-pack. I don't have any tattoos, I've always been too indecisive. But one bold client in Manchester, England, didn't hesitate when he decided to get a tattoo that ensures he's beach ready 365 days a year. In a video posted on tattoo artist Dean Gunther's TikTok, his client, who was struggling with gym motivation, decided to get the body of his dreams in a different way. After 2 long, painful days under the needle, are you ready to see his incredible body transformation? Who's this fine, chiseled figure? The detail in the tattoo is actually pretty impressive. Though maybe I'm just comparing it to some other, not so great attempts I've seen. In fact, yeah, I definitely am. I mean, the colors don't even seem to match his skin tone. But hey, fresh tattoos always need time to settle, so maybe, just maybe, it'll turn out fine. And here's the kicker, Dean didn't charge him a penny for it. Actually, this is giving me an idea for how to get more people to click on my videos. Ta-da! Yeah, maybe not. I'm glad I tried this out with a Sharpie before fully committing. Now, how do I get rid of these Sharpie stains? Gruesome truth. Whether you're into bodybuilding or not, you can't deny that many bodybuilders push themselves to the absolute limit to achieve their goals. But some, like Belgian-born Edward Ger, take it way too far. Ger led a chameleonic life, starting off as an athlete before moving into bodybuilding, modeling, and even working as a Hollywood stuntman. Which, let's be honest, is one of the coolest jobs ever. But for an intense 15 years, he was taking steroids to bulk up his muscle mass. The problem is, while steroids can turn you into a muscle machine, they can also spike your blood pressure. Overusing them puts enormous strain on your heart. Sure enough, in June 1997, while cooking dinner in his kitchen, Ger suffered a heart attack so severe that his heart literally stopped beating. Most people would think, that's game over. But not this Hollywood hero. Amazingly, he survived. After countless surgeries and procedures to repair the damage, Ger kept going. How incredible is that? Despite his miraculous recovery, Edward sadly passed away in 2015 due to other complications. It's a real bummer, but it doesn't take away from his resilience, both in his sport and in his recovery. This one's for you, Edward. Photoshop flops. Alright. If you can remember back just a couple of minutes, you'll recall Jake Paul's awkward Photoshop fail. But as you probably know, it's not just celebrities who edit their images online, some regular folks are even worse at it. Take this kid, for example. He's definitely ripped those muscly arms straight out of a magazine to pose with. I can only imagine the look on his mom's face if she walked in on that scene. Then there's this cool dude. If you're wondering what's up with his odd-looking body, take a closer look at the bottom left. Yep, he bought a t-shirt with a muscly body print on it, took a pic, and then edited out the white parts of the shirt. Incredible. But for sheer audacity, the gold medal goes to this guy. That arm is twice the size of his head. Even if anyone believed this pic wasn't edited, they'd still have some serious questions about what he's been doing with that left arm. In all seriousness, it's sad that anyone feels the need to do this. But the more concerning thing is that it's often a lot more subtle. The takeaway here? Don't believe everything you see on Instagram. Thriller filler. Women's bodies come in all shapes and sizes. Some are heavier on top, some are heavier on the bottom. But the patients of ONeal Morris were definitely heavier on the bottom, much heavier. ONeal ran a back alley beauty business in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. While she told her clients that her products were top of the line, she was actually injecting a cement concoction into their derrieres. Wait, she did what? Oh, you heard that right. ONeal's mix included cement, silicone, and Fix-A-Flat, a product meant for sealing flat tires, not packing a woman's behind with what amounts to a cinder block. I've seen enough medical dramas to know this Home Depot shopping list doesn't sound like standard practice, and it wasn't. ONeal didn't have a license, and the whole operation was illegal. Over 30 people have come forward, claiming they paid for her sketchy cosmetic procedures. Tragically, many of these women were in desperate situations, unable to afford reputable cosmetic surgeons and trusting ONeal's cheaper services. All of them suffered from disfigurement, illness, and even hospitalization because of these bogus treatments. In 2017, this toxic tush doctor was sentenced to 10 years in prison. Honestly, I'd say she got off lightly. But let me know your thoughts on this wild story in the comments. Natty ONeal. Next up, we've got a guy who shares more than just a name with ONeal Morris. But as far as I know, Canadian bodybuilder Kenny ONeal isn't putting anything weird in or around his butt. Nope, he prefers to keep things above the belt. Sheesh. I've heard of bowling ball shoulders before, but this dude's got bowling pins. Kenny's never really explained what was going on with his muscles in these photos from the 2016 Vancouver Bodybuilding Championship. To me, it could be a milder version of what our Rambo friend was doing earlier. However, Kenny was adamant that he'd never even seen Synthol before, let alone used it, and he denied having implants. But fans were quick to pull up photos from a few months before the competition, where his shoulders looked unnaturally swollen. So, what was his explanation? Well, he blamed the lighting. Kenny, my guy, unless the lights were inside your actual shoulders, we all know that's not true. Later, Kenny admitted that he had infections in both deltoid muscles from overusing water-based testosterone in his shoulders. Apparently, his doctor drained the excess fluid and gave him antibiotics, but it didn't clear up the issue before the competition. Now, I'm not sure what I believe. Only Kenny knows the real truth. I just hope he got those meaty mounts fixed before they popped. Run down Ronnie. As we've already seen, Synthol is nothing to mess with. While some people who use it manage to escape with minor issues, others aren't so fortunate. Ronnie Rono was a Kenyan bodybuilder who tragically lost his life because of Synthol. Man, that's heartbreaking. In early 2017, Ronnie noticed a small swelling in his right arm, which by April had spread to his left hand. After an MRI at the local hospital, the severity of Ronnie's condition became clear. The Synthol had reacted badly with his muscles, disfiguring them and causing some to lose all function. His chest muscles became so grossly enlarged that there was no way to recover. It wasn't long before he was bed-bound, unable to carry his own weight without exhausting himself. To make matters worse, because he could no longer work to support his family, his wife left him, taking their 5-year-old child with her. Damn, that's rough. Poor guy. In 2020, Ronnie passed away at the age of just 30. But the real kicker, he could never admit to using Synthol. Instead, he claimed he was a heavy drinker during his bodybuilding days and that someone must have injected him without him knowing. Whether that's true or just a story Ronnie told himself to feel better, I guess we'll never know. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Mean? Green? Photoshop machine? Ever wondered how to get that hulking superhero physique without eating chicken and rice 14 times a day? Well, take a few tips from Sajad Garibi. You might know him as the Iranian Hulk, with over 1 million Instagram followers in awe of his impossible size. Rumored to weigh around 400 pounds and looking like he stood about 13 feet tall, Sajad seemed like a true behemoth. So when a fight was announced between him and 6-foot British giant Martin Ford, fans were pumped to see which of these Herculean heavyweights would come out on top. But things didn't go as expected. It turns out Garibi had been tweaking his proportions on Photoshop to look much bigger than he actually was. In reality, he's 6'2" and weighs about 300 pounds. Don't get me wrong, he's still a big guy. But fans were expecting the Hulk, and all they got was a smashed reputation. As the fight drew closer, it became clear that Garibi's biggest battle wasn't in the ring, it was with himself. After a press conference meant to build hype, he was seen crying uncontrollably. Not wanting to take advantage of someone clearly struggling, Ford pulled out of the fight, citing concerns for Garibi's health. Following this, Garibi deleted all the edited images from his Instagram. Ouch. That's a tough way to step out of the spotlight. These days, he's keeping a low profile and seems to be focused on training. I really hope he bounces back, and maybe we'll see him in the ring for real someday. Ill-starred Sagato. Oh, boy. If you don't have them already, you better grab some tissues. I got teary-eyed just reading about Brazilian bodybuilder Valder Sagato. You might have seen him before, he gained internet notoriety for his heavily artificial Synthol-enhanced physique. But in Valder's case, a picture doesn't always tell 1,000 words. Valder grew up around Sao Paulo in the 1970s and 80s and had a rough adolescence, falling into bad habits and an unhealthy lifestyle that left him dangerously underweight. In an effort to turn his life around, Valder joined a gym, hoping the structure and exercise would pull him out of his rut. And for a while, it did. But then in 2013, someone at his gym introduced him to Synthol, and Valder was immediately hooked on how it made him look. He started pumping his chest, shoulders, and arms full of the stuff, to the point where his biceps swelled to a massive 23 inches, almost as big as a soccer ball. By 2016, doctors warned him that the risk of nerve damage, or worse, was alarmingly high. But none of that mattered to Valder. He loved the attention it brought him too much. He even changed his Instagram name to Valder Synthol. Sadly, the doctors were right. In August 2022, Valder's vices caught up with him, and he passed away on his 55th birthday. Even worse, despite amassing over 1 million followers on TikTok, his online fame was far from a reflection of his real life. In reality, he was almost completely alone. My gosh. I told you it was a heavy one. I just hope Valder's found some peace now. Loose caboose. Social media bombards us with images of unattainable beauty standards that can seriously impact how we see ourselves. For 23-year-old Mia Mafia from Leeds, England, this was especially true. She became obsessed with achieving the Kim Kardashian figure, you know, tiny waist, big bottom. But at a petite size 8, this seemed like an impossible goal for Mia. That is, until she discovered a clinic in Belgium that offered bone augmentation surgery, silicone implants for your booty. After saving up around $8,000, she traveled there to get the body of her dreams. But things didn't turn out exactly as she'd hoped. The doctor informed her that she couldn't have implants larger than 2 inches, much smaller than what Mia had planned. No matter how much she begged, the clinic refused to go bigger. So, Mia cut her losses, accepted the doctor's proposal, and went through with the procedure. A happy-ish ending, right? Wrong. After the work was done, Mia couldn't sit down or put any weight on the operated area whilst it healed. She faced a grueling journey home, and at times, had to lie face down on train platforms just to rest. Then, 10 days after getting back to Leeds, she woke up to a grisly shock. Her mattress was soaking wet. One of her new implants had burst and leaked all over the bed. Geez, that's rough. She immediately rushed to the hospital but begged the surgeons not to remove the implants, despite the high risk of infection. Now, I know that might sound crazy, but if I were in Mia's shoes, I'd probably put up a fight too. Think about it, if you had a crippling insecurity that you'd spent a lot of money to fix, and then someone threatened to take that away, how would you feel? Fortunately for Mia, she got her busted backside fixed, had new implants fitted, and is now much happier. Phew. So, there really is a happy ending to this story. Disaster averted. After all that, I'm going to eat a pizza. Turns out my perfect body is one filled with 12 inches of cheesy goodness. So, which of these muscular mishaps shocked you the most? Let me know down in the comments, and thanks for watching.